I'll tell you right now, the first phone call that I ever made on a subject to transaction, I'm going to say her name, Stephanie Cox in Beaufort, South Carolina. Okay. If I would have stopped after she told me the stuff she told me, then I would have been sitting in a corporate job somewhere miserable.
The military taught us discipline, it taught us leadership, but it never taught us how to really build wealth and income. This is the Active Duty Passive Income Podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Eon Sitch, a United States Marine turned full-time real estate investor and educator. I'm bringing you the most successful military, veteran, and military spouse real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and industry experts to break down exactly how they did it, so you can too.
Hello, ADPI. We're back. And this time we've got two Eagle Globe and anchors on the screen today. If you're watching us on YouTube, you'll see that we've got another awesome guest here. He's wearing the Eagle Globe and anchor on his shirt. I've got one on my mic, and I couldn't be more excited. This is going to be such a great conversation. This is somebody that's been really integrated in our community for quite a long time. And he does things very, very, let's call it, like, obviously creatively. That should be a hint. But just, I think it's something that some people, it's like the saying goes, like, if you don't understand it, it's scary. When you understand it, it's like whatever. And the hope for this podcast is to have Adam Catledge to demystify whatever the big buzzwords are behind all the creative financing stuff. And we're going to dig in particularly on step 2 that's causing so much hype and excitement in the real estate space right now. But it's also just very kind of mysterious almost for a lot of beginners. And even me, I cannot wait selfishly to just learn every little piece of this. And Adam, thank you so much for coming on. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're an entrepreneur. You did 20 years in the military. I would love to just hear your intro. Give us a little bit of background. Like, who is Adam? How did you get to where you are?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on here. Like we were saying before, this is like a little starstruck, right? Because this was the first podcast that I started really listening to outside of Bigger Pockets, right? And it was started hearing all you guys speak, and hey, this is what we're doing outside the military. We're into real estate, we're into business, entrepreneurship. And so, years ago, I always said, hey, I'm going to be on that podcast one day. So, kind of not slept last night because, I was a little excited about this moment. Cause for me, this is one of those things that, hey, this is a bucket list for me to get on here. So I appreciate you having me here. So a little bit about me. So retired from the Marine Corps after 20 years in July 2023. But before that, really hadn't done anything with real estate. Just thought, hey, the regular mindset of, hey, I've got to use my own money to buy real estate. I've got to do it the traditional route. I've got to do it. Investment properties, you got to have 20% down, 25% down. Just what you get told all the time, every single time you speak to somebody that doesn't do creative finance. And so I grew up around that space. That's what I knew. Parents were entrepreneurs. It was told, hey, you need to go work after you retire from the military. You need, you're not going to be able to survive off of your retirement. If you get disability, you're not going to be able to, sustain a lifestyle and live the life you want to live. And so I beg to differ now. I say that we can do that with a limited portfolio, doing creative finance or different exit strategies that we're not accustomed to, that some people are not talking about yet. So that's a little bit about me, my beginning story. And so, it's definitely been a journey. I'll tell you that much.
And I cannot wait to dig into that journey. Would you say that, because it seems like there was an aha moment at some point, would you say that creative financing made it seem like being your own boss and doing real estate for yourself and growing as an entrepreneur was the linchpin for you in your particular case? Because you're right, it's very daunting thinking like, I'm making this military paycheck and I, putting stuff into the TSP, but as every single time I rank up or my paycheck increases, my expenses increase as well. It's hard to imagine saving up just like on the side a 20% down payment all the time. And then imagining that happening fast enough for it to be meaningful at all to you. 20 years is a long time, but not everybody does 20 years. And 20 years might not be enough to replace or supplement your paycheck to live the life you want. And so, as a fellow Marine, that it's not
Yeah,
always
I
easy
mean,
to-
that's creative finance really allowed me to really step out and make this dream come true. And it
there you go.
was, and I say that because, I'm an honest person. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I had money sitting in the bank account and just, when I was about to retire or throughout my career, just sitting there, because I'm just like every other service member. Most of the time living paycheck to paycheck when you're out there traveling and, doing things and living your life and not really planning for the future because you think you're invincible at that time.
Right.
And so I needed to learn creative finance to get to where I'm at, right? Because I didn't come from a wealthy
Right.
background. I didn't come from a family that had money. My dad was a Marine. My grandfather was Army soldier. So a long lineage of military service. And this was what, changed the course of my life and potentially, my family's life was real estate. And so, only way I saw that being to come true would be through creative finance. Because, I will tell you, and we'll definitely get into it. But, I can still say to this day that I've never used any amount of money to purchase real estate.
Wow. That is profound. Actually, I don't think a lot of people, I haven't even thought about that in my own way. I mean, I've definitely lost a lot of my own money learning market lessons. But yeah, I mean, like even my first deal,
I've lost money myself, right? It's not a matter if you're going to lose money, it's when you're going to lose money.
Yeah, it's when. Which I think is an important mindset thing. It's almost like, gosh, I mean, I had an ego on me and I was like, I'll figure it out. I'm not gonna lose money. Like here I am,
hey, we're all there.
figures and
we've all been there, right? We've all been there saying, hey, we're not going to lose money. We are not going to be the one to lose money on real estate. Now, I will say I've never lost anyone else's money in real estate. I've lost my own when because I will say it does take money to operate your business, right? It does take a little bit of money to operate your business, but there's strategies out there to get to where you can afford to operate your business, or you can leverage other people's money for operational expenses. So, that was the other piece of my story was, capital raising. And that was huge for me was capital raising, because it goes, in tandem with the, buying real estate, even within the creative space, you still need to learn how to raise capital.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna get me so excited if we start talking about capital raising here. But let's just pause on that, because I do understand that that's a big element of what you're doing. But let's talk about, how about this? Let's pick apart maybe the first creative finance deal, and then I know that you've probably, I mean, you're so good at like explaining this stuff. You're obviously like an educator at heart as well. So where would you want to like pretend it's you back when you were doing your first one? How would you tell yourself to do a successful creative deal, specifically maybe subject to, if that's what you want to focus on today?
Well, the first thing I would say do is at least take the opportunity to learn something different, right? And to educate yourself in something you're not familiar with.
How do you do that?
Sub-2,
Like
Sub-2's been around. Sub-2's been around forever, right? And so I hired a mentor. And, just like a lot of people do when they retire from the military, they hire life coaches, or they hire, just they link up with a mentor. There's just so many things you can do depending on what space you go into. But I saw the value in getting an education. And it wasn't an education going to a 4-year degree. It was, hey, let me find someone that is doing what I am interested in doing and not reinvent the wheel, right? Someone's already out there, tried it, tested it. Why not just follow the same track? Because I'm a firm believer, if someone else is doing it, then why can't you do it? And as long as you put your mind to it. But yeah, go ahead.
Can I dig into that a little bit? And I'm sorry, just because like I personally see a lot of resistance in new, it's called aspiring real estate investors, taking, for some reason, and I don't know if it's like being brought up in the military and basically just the mindset of, I don't know, training is just a part of what you do and that you never pay for it. It's it's a big hurdle for a lot of people to accept. Like paying $250,000 for a university isn't, but for some reason,
Nope.
going to a person that has been there, done that, and it loves it so much that they want to pass it on, and they break it down into pieces that for some reason getting yourself educated that way just seems foreign, or like, I don't know what it is. I mean, was it the speed of implementation that you were seeking, or what was it that gave you that, like, you know what, I'm going to trust somebody and do this?
Well, for me, it was to speed it up, right? I did not
Okay.
want to, I didn't want to go out there and try to, okay, let me find the lawyers that are doing this. Let me find the agents that are understand this type of information. How do you have that? Where are the scripts at that I need to talk about? Where are just a litany of things that come with educating yourself on a new system process, right? And a lot of us, hey, we don't like to fail. And so I see that as one of the biggest hurdles for people to go through. They hate the fact that they don't want to go back to their family and say, it didn't work out.
Oh
right?
my gosh. I tell my wife that all the time.
But hey, would you rather say, hey, it didn't work out? Or would you rather sit on your deathbed and say, I wish I could? I wish I would have.
It's clarity, right? So like I'd say this all the time. Like the whole point of, like, we do strategy calls, right? For those that are interested in multifamily, for example. I'm like, the most important part about this is not only, like, figuring out what a framework would look like with your personal situation, what your goals are, but just figuring out if this is for you. You don't want to pass on life wonder, what if I did get into commercial multifamily or subject to creative financing or whatever? Like, you don't want that wonder is to me, I feel like it would kill me now. I can't imagine on my deathbed, right? Like, I don't want to, I want clarity. I want to commit to something, whatever it is.
Yeah, regret is a hard thing to have at the end of your life, right? And even going through life with regret, you looking back, you can't change the past, right?
Right.
You move forward every day, but yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's like people don't want to fail, and then they look back and say, well, I wish I would have at least taken that chance to better me and my family's life.
But failure isn't like, and guys, for those listening here, like, I'm digging into this big time because I see thousands of times a year, right? Like dozens a week of people like going through the decision-making process and the fears of getting into real estate and all this kind of stuff. And the 9 times out of 10, the thing that holds them up is themselves. It's not the mechanics of doing the stuff. Right. And
we get it.
I want to hear how Adam's brain went through this himself. I had my own demons, and this is what's actually going to be the differentiator. Like, building an engine isn't tough. You can watch a YouTube video, figure out, but what is the fuel you need to put into your brain to make the engine go? Right? What's going to make you actually do things? Because failure doesn't have to be finite. I think, how do you feel about failure? Like, I failed so many times, and I used to think like failure is like, people talk about it like failure and then life ends after that. Well, actually, that's just a stepping stone. Now, like, I'm going to figure out better, right?
Yeah. I mean, we all, even to today, we don't want to fail at something, right? That's because, we always have those people say, I told you so. I told you so.
Oh my God, those people.
Yeah, right. The parents, the Karens out there. Sorry if your name's Karen, sorry. But it's the failure thing comes from, us in the military that are, we try to be on our A game all the time. And failure could kill someone in our line of work. And
literally,
and it's just, it's built into us that we don't want to do that. And it's scared to do the unknown, right? If you have always came from a place of structure, of knowing what the next step is going to be and being able to forecast that, it's scary not knowing what the next phone call is going to be like. And, it takes some mental toughness to get through that and see it through to the end of to a completion of a deal or just a new strategy that you're learning, you're learning on. And so go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Like, I wanted to dig even deeper on that. Like, have you ever succeeded in something, right? Maybe it's a deal, but then realized later on that because there wasn't a failure in that process, you actually didn't learn or fully understand why you succeeded in it. to me, that's the most scariest thing. Is like, I don't want to just like be lucky, succeed in the thing. Like, I'd rather fail as often and as early as possible. I don't want to have big failures when I'm like older, waiting to retire. It's kind of like you want to de-risk your portfolio down the road, but right now, get those failures and risks, baby. Right?
Yeah, I mean, with risk, there's reward, right? With failure, there's rewards on the other end sometimes, and most of the time, right? Because you're going to better yourself. But yeah, there was, I say, capital raising is a big one. Okay, and I think you've told your story about how you worked with your parents on raising capital. I've worked with my parents on raising capital and friends, but today I don't do that anymore because that is the clutch, right? Hey, they're going to say yes if they, because I'm their son or I'm their friend, they're going to say yes. So that never turns into failure, never turns into growth. And
Okay.
So now I only raise capital from outside my inner circle. I don't want to I don't mix friends and capital raise unless they want to, unless they come to me and say, hey, I've got some money and I want to learn what you're doing. Hey, let's go. Let's have a great time doing it and have fun doing it and do what you want to do and learn. And so I can help you out. Right. But on the other end, I don't want to go that route because then it becomes a clutch for me of, hey, I don't really have to work as hard to go earn their trust and pitch my deal or my opportunity. Right. I try not to pitch a deal. I pitch an opportunity. So, that's one of the things where failure, in my opinion, can harm you if you start leveraging, especially in the capital space, of leveraging your inner circle, because then you don't expand your network, and your network is your net worth.
Is your net worth
in our space. So. But I want to go back to that, like we'll go back about the. Sorry, we got sidetracked. I get excited about this.
It's a little bit of it's a little bit of sidetrack, but I do think that just hearing how you think about it is so valuable, and it'll make it that much easier for when you're talking about some mechanics right now on your deals for people to actually do it. So I really appreciate that.
So my first deal that I, after I started educating myself and in creative finance, I went and looked at a lease option. Was my first deal.
A lease option. Also, what's that?
A lease option. A lease option is where you're basically rent to own. Okay. And it's where you go and get a lease. You have an option to purchase the property at a future date with an agreed upon price for today. And so I went out there and did that. But I really want to talk about the first sub 2 deal that was really at the same time as that. So that it could one or the other be the first deal. But because sub 2 is a great way to purchase real estate. I was purchasing I found this property, on a Facebook group. I posted on Facebook. I said, hey, is anybody having a hard time selling their property right now? Or is going to have to pay someone to buy their property? And someone reached out to me and said, hey, we just did a cash out refinance. We have no equity to sell it, but we want to move out of the subdivision and we want to go and live in a homestead. Okay. What was I doing there? Right. I was trying to find out what their problem was so that I could potentially solve their problem. Because if I can't solve their problem, they're not going to work with me. It's not going to make a deal work. Because at the end of the day, you need to be able to, it needs to work for you, but it also needs to work for the seller as well. And I'll always say, hey, if you can go sell your property on the MLS or, on the open market and get a traditional offer on it, go right ahead. That's what you need to do. Just let me help you leverage creative finance to help solve your problem if you're not seeing the results you're wishing to accomplish. Right. And so I found this property, on a Facebook market, talked to him, flew from California. I was on Skillbridge and flew out to South Carolina because that was where me and my husband were moving over to South Carolina for him I was retiring. He was going back on the drill field and we needed a place to live. So why not purchase a property sub 2 and live in it? And so this was late 2023, November timeframe. Okay. And October, November timeframe. And when we actually closed on it, didn't move into it until February, but my mortgage rate was I think we were at a 3.25% interest rate. I think interest rates were going at 6 or 7% by that point, maybe.
Yeah, for
We were
sure.
pretty high. And so that's why I love creative finance, right? Because I don't have to worry about what today's rates are. Only rate I'm worried about is the rate that's attached to that loan.
Got it.
So,
so your first deal was one that you actually ended up as a primary residence, right?
Used it as a primary residence.
Okay. And so it had an in-place loan. And why is it called, I know this is like Barney style here, but there's a lot of Marines like me and you listening, so we got to break it down. Why is it
rocks?
why is it called subject to?
Because we're taking it over subject to the existing mortgage. Okay. And there's a lot of people out there saying, hey, I can't, this is not real. This does not exist. How can I go out there and get a 2003 or 2020, right? That was what rates were back then, 2000.
Those are good rates back then.
How can I do that? How can I take over someone's loan? Right? Some of us have heard about assumptions and stuff like that, but subject to is totally different. And hey, it's illegal for me to do that. I'll tell you right now, the first phone call that I ever made on a subject to transaction, I'm going to say her name, Stephanie Cox in Beaufort, South Carolina. Okay. So she's listening. I love you, Stephanie. But if I would have stopped after she told me the stuff she told me, then I would have been sitting in a corporate job somewhere miserable. Right. So, but it was just the lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding that this is a legitimate way to purchase property. If you look at a closing statement on line 250, I think it's 253 and 553, it says subject to existing mortgage. It's in the manual. This was really popular back in the 80s, early 80s, when interest rates were 16, 17%. They were doing this. So it's been around for a long time. It's just now that rates are higher, it's becoming a lot more popular. People are educating themselves on it because they don't want to go out there and pay such a high interest rate. And it doesn't have to be on just primary residence, right? I did it for mine because why not? Why not live in a property?
Right. You're going to live there anyways.
All I had to pay was closing costs. I literally bought a house for $5,000. That was it.
Dear God, that's epic. And so, okay. First of all, I really love how you targeted people. It was very smart, right? You knew exactly the problems that probably people were having at the time. And you wanted to identify. So you were very direct, like you did it like best place ever, like what, Marketplace or a Facebook group or anybody here, like
a subdivisions Facebook group.
Goodness. Right. So like you're targeting the subdivision that you want to live in, and you're literally like, that is the direct, VFR direct, but you're going right to the source and you're asking the exact question that's going to, pour salt on the pain point that these people are having, and boom, you find them and then you help fix it. That's beautiful. Yep. And
be the superhero.
I think a lot of people say like creative financing is all about solving people's problems, their pain points, whatever. That's exactly what you were saying. You're being their solution. So now let's talk about that you were talking about the closing statement. What were the lines there? So this is a thing. This isn't, I think it's on the HUD state.
Yeah. If I had my,
sure. Whatever. I'm not going to quote you on it. No, it's fine.
I don't have one, right?
But your point is it's 100% legal. No, yeah, you're fine. I'm not going to quote you. Right. So it's 100% legal. Now, the big fear is what? Is it the Dodd-Frank, like the
due on sale clause, right? Everybody talks
due on sale clause, right?
The note's going to be called due. The note is going to be called
so talk
due.
me through that. So if somebody hears the terror of all of a sudden the note being called due, how do you approach it before you own it? How do you approach it after you own it? What is your mindset on that?
So this is where, it is very important for you to work with individuals that have done what you want to do in the future, because they've already tested it out, right? And that's why I go back to, I hired a mentor because they've done it, right? So they can show me the right way to do it, because we're solving a problem for people. We don't want to create another problem in addition to what they're already going through. And so the due on sale clause, if you look at your mortgage documents, everyone say it's going to be called if we transfer this deed. Well, Tell me where in the verbiage that says will. There's a lot of may. M-A-Y.
A
May
lot of
call.
May.
May. So it's a discretionary thing, right? But at the end of
Right.
the day, if it does happen, right? I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't happen. There's risk involved in everything, and everybody's risk tolerance is different. My risk tolerance is different than yours, Markion. My risk tolerance is different than my parents, my friends, everybody is different. And that's, so what at the end of the day, what I leverage is my contract. And I use a contract that has been vetted by lawyers, that has been created by my mentor.
Okay.
And in the worst case scenario, what do? We deed it back to them and go into a lease option.
Okay. Whoa. All right. Let's pause there. Okay. Boom, you just dropped the solution bomb. But real quick, just in case people are a little bit confused what we're talking about here, the due on sale clause, essentially, because of, it says may a lot, like you said in the loan docs, but essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, it means that if you deed, like basically the ownership of the property is transferred,
if you lose
deed it over,
interest,
so you lose interest.
if you lose interest into in the property,
then the bank could be like, oh, we're going to consider this a sale to somebody, not just like that loss of interest, like a legitimate
breach of contract.
And so breach of contract. And now what we want to do is say, whatever you owe on that, we want it now, right?
Yeah, we're going to accelerate this.
Yeah.
We're going to accelerate the note. It is no longer due in 2052. It is due in 2025 in 30 days.
Yeah.
But they do have to give you a cure period. There's a cure period.
I was about to ask about that. Is there a cure period? Okay, cool.
There is a cure period. And so there's several ways to get around it. You can go negotiate with the bank because the banks are not in the business of taking back homes. All right.
Yeah,
they're going to lose money
if
they own homes. No, they don't. I mean, I'm in negotiations with a bank right now and they're taking less than what I had offered them. So they wouldn't foreclose on. Yes. And because they're going to lose money at the end of the day if they take it back and bring it into their ecosystem. And they want to work with you.
Sorry, Adam, I'm just like so excited about some of these, like you're saying some things just so nonchalantly that I'm just like, I need a pause because it's pretty profound if you ask me. Like you're saying like, yeah, I'm negotiating with the bank. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was when you first started, could you ever imagine having enough confidence to just be like, wielding and dealing with a bank? Like, is that something you were anticipating being at that stage?
Well, hey, like I said, I'm getting chill bumps thinking about it, right? Because I will tell you, when I started down this journey that I'm currently on, if Adam from June of 2022 walked in front of me, I wouldn't recognize him, right? Because
no kidding.
I am totally doing something totally different right now than where I had envisioned my life going. But it is where I was meant to go.
That's awesome. And okay, so everybody knows I obsess about confidence, but like it took a certain level of confidence to be able to just negotiate with a damn bank, right? Like
I say it goes back to working with a mentor and trusting the process, right? And taking the leap of faith that what's the worst case thing can happen? They can say no.
Right. It's kind of like the definition of fear. Have you ever heard of this? I think Alex Hormozy mentioned it. It's like fear is like a mile wide, but it's really only an inch deep. Like once you jump into that pool, you're kind of like, oh, wait a second. All right. I got a little wet, but I can wade through this now. I can figure it out. But there were like, it's almost like a muscle. That's why I often refer to real estate as a sport. Like you got to get the reps in and you're going to miss a lot of times. You got to get the reps in, right? So you got to
get on those phone calls. You got to have those conversations. You got to have those tough conversations. I mean, we've had a lot of tough conversations in our lives. I'm pretty sure of, just imagine, why not have those conversations in this space? We've already been built for it. We've already been doing it. Why not just now leverage our skills in doing real estate, doing creative, transactions that we're not used to, or just going down a different path that we're not accustomed to and we're afraid of, the unknown. Just, taking that leap of faith.
I love that.
So,
and so you're saying right now that the best solution, or it seems like the initial, because there's probably multiple solutions on how to cure the situation, right? And guys, cure is just legal term like fix. All right. So like there typically contracts, if it describes ways that you breach the contract or the agreement with the other party, that, sometimes you might not even realize that you breached it, right? Or it could be an honest mistake and they want to. And so in the other side, they don't necessarily want the contract to fall apart. So they just want to have, both sides want to have the opportunity to be like, hey, by the way, you breached this thing. Can you fix it? And he's like, oh, my bad. Like that kind of stuff happens. And it depends on the contract. But in this case, what we're saying is there was an interest change and they're deciding to exercise that clause where they said, we may do this. And again, from what I understand, like Adam, these are very rare instances, and it probably only happens with very small, like banks, not like a big lender. But if it does happen, you said the solution is what? Can you repeat that again?
So the solution is, hey, you can negotiate with the bank, right, to find out so you both get on the same page, right? And that's why they're going to call the note. If they're going to call it, dude, they're calling it because now they're unaware of who owns this property.
Yeah, they don't know who you are,
right? They don't know, so they want to get you all on the same page, right? The worst case scenario, I leverage my contract, and it says in there that, hey, if we cannot cure the due on sale acceleration, then we're going to quick claim deed it back to you, and you're going to lease option it back to me under the same terms. And then now that's cured that breach of contract. And I think it's very important, right, for everyone to hear this, because, there are a lot of phone calls happening right now across America, particularly around military bases, because what is right now? Right now, we're in the summer season, 2025, and we're in PCS season. So military veterans and active duty service members and their families are selling property right now. They're selling it from when they bought it in 2022 to 2020 to now, when it was at the height of the market. And now they've already leveraged. A lot of us did not put money down because we leveraged our VA loan. So we went in over leveraged onto a property, and because we have to we finance in our VA funding fee. And so there's typically 3% appreciation in most markets over every year. But in some markets now we're starting to see a decrease in property value. But now we're forcing value because now we've got to pay real estate commissions. We've got to pay closing costs. We've got to have concessions. And
so it's expensive, guys.
It's very expensive. You spend maybe 10%, right? I always like to forecast 10% if I'm going to sell a property. And so that's probably a little that's a little aggressive, probably.
Yeah, I get it. But it could be pretty high.
So, but I get to that because you're seeing a lot of price reductions. You're seeing price reductions on there. You're not able to sell your home, and you're going to have to pay someone to buy your home, or you're going to have to pay someone to live in your home. I helped out this service member and his wife. He was getting out of the Marine Corps in Beaufort, South Carolina, and he was moving back to Louisiana. And their agent wasn't very familiar with creative finance, and it was being being the barrier of entry. They were being the gatekeeper, which they should. They've got a fiduciary responsibility to their client. And I totally understand that. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to solve a problem for your client here. And I was able to come in there and buy their home subject to, and they were able to go and close on their next home in Louisiana before we even closed on our property. And what they were going to have to do is they were going to have to pay someone to rent their home, because they were going to be about a $300 spread that rent and their mortgage, because they were at a higher interest rate.
They were going to lose every month because the rent wasn't going to be.
And now guess what? What happens now? Do you think they've got $8,000 to $10,000 to replace an air conditioning unit or a roof leak or anything like that? Probably not, right? If they've already put their money aside for them to transition out and to go on to their next chapter of their life. So it became a very powerful tool that I saw that I could leverage to help my community out, our community out. And so a lot of your people's agents right now are getting phone calls and letter of intents. on creative finance acquisition possibilities. And so I think we need to take a step back and as sellers ourselves, because, just because it's unfamiliar, maybe this unfamiliarity may help solve our problem. And, for me, I look at it through the lens of, oh, I'm an investor. I would love, this is the type of transactions I want. But then I flip the switch and say, okay, this is a powerful tool for us to use to get the amount of money we want for our property. So we don't have to pay someone to come buy our property, especially in today, right? When the days on markets are sitting there, people aren't selling. They're now having to pay people to live in their homes. They're having to become landlords when they don't have, when they don't want to be they don't want to become landlords. So this is it's a great way for people to see, okay, let me sell my property this way. Let me add this to the listing, because now I can get more money.
But it begs the question though, like if they are not able, like how do you find the opportunity? If they weren't able to rent it out to make enough money month to month, like how do you treat, like where's the benefit coming in for you financially? Are you just more comfortable with losing some cash flow every single month? And because that like over the long haul, obviously real estate's still going to win, or do you get even more creative on the renting side?
So I became very creative. This is where I excelled. And
okay, here we go.
It was because, and how I became successful in this space, I feel. And, I'm been doing this for 3 years, so I'm learning every day still. Okay. So I'm no expert, but I've actually taken action. And so I got really good at knowing how to leverage the highest and best use of a property, right? It doesn't always have to be a long-term rental for an investor. Maybe that investor that's buying it is going to use it to rent it to a nonprofit as a sober living home, or they're going to sell it to someone that can't qualify for a mortgage. I just sold my property we're under contract, closing in the middle of this month. I forced $200,000 in equity in my property because I'm a seller finance it to somebody, right?
Because they can't qualify for a mortgage, whatever's going on with their credit score or their debt to income ratio.
My buyer's a hairdresser, and she couldn't qualify for a loan because she hadn't been in business for 2 years and been able to show those tax returns. So she couldn't qualify for a traditional mortgage. So I did a wraparound mortgage. I took my equity and my original mortgage, packaged it together, and now I'm the bank rather than.
We're going to dig into that.
So I'm the
real
middleman.
quick.
So I just got really good at, don't worry about what they may do. Don't worry about, hey, I got to know what strategy they're going to use. If I'm going to sell it sub 2 or a wraparound mortgage or on a lease option or however you sell it, worry about what you need to accomplish from that transaction. Because I'm going to come in, I'm not going to buy your property if I can't use it. Now, there are reasons why you do buy property and you lose money every month. If you're making a lot of money and you need a tax break, you need a deduction somewhere. And I've had partners in the past that said, hey, I make way too much money. I need to take a loss. I'd rather play this thing out.
I believe it.
And I need us to break even every month or lose money on this property.
Wow.
And
okay.
So it's just another strategy that people use. And so I got really good at with those strategies, educate myself on individual exit strategies. And I say exit strategies are what you're going to do with the property after you close.
Once you own it. Right.
Once you own it. Because you're either going to flip it, you're either going to flip it, you're going to make it a short-term rental, you're going to make it a midterm rental, you're going to make it sober living. Whatever you're going to do with it, co-living, right? Because that's what I'm doing now, co-living.
I know. I was going to ask you about that too.
So,
yeah.
But, and that's a great way for people. If you talk about a wealth building asset class, that is how you can make some money right there.
So let's talk about the exit strategies here in a second. Let's go back to the subject too. What else do you want? Like, let's just go through the mechanic. There's a property that you want to buy for whatever the pain point that they have. Like, obviously there's many different reasons. We already went over that, but let's say you're negotiating, whether there's, an agent that you might have to educate a little bit on the process, or you're going direct to the sellers like you did, you connected with them online. And what you're saying is there's a contract that you're going to sign with that seller, right? Is that the assignment contract that I hear people talking about? Is that what that is?
No, I mean, your purchase sell agreement.
It's okay. So your purchase and sale agreement. Oh, sorry. I'm thinking wholesaling. Wow. I just had a brain fart.
Assignment goes would be from me to another buyer.
To another buyer, right? So, because I know you're pretty skilled at that.
Which
I think
I've
that's
done.
where my head was going. Right. But in this case, just to focus on the subject too, it's a purchase and sale agreement subject to the existing mortgage, and and that's it. Like it sounds pretty dang simple. It sounds like you're going to have to pay some closing costs to an attorney to kind of like, do all the deeding and all that kind of stuff. But you're not going to have to pay any points to a new lender. You're not going to have to do any of the additional. You don't even have to do inspections if you don't want to, right? Like you're
have
saving
your credit
so
pulled.
much. Right. Okay.
You could go and have
That's
a 400
huge for some
credit
people.
score and buy a $2 million home if you can afford it.
That's wild. Okay. And it doesn't matter what your debt to income ratio is. You might be breaking even in your life every month, but you can still get a house. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's hugely attractive to some people. Like you said, with the hairdresser who, is a 1099, she doesn't have a W-2 and she hasn't spent 2 years getting paid that way yet. So she can't qualify. Okay. But here you are, you're acting as, the seller in this case is almost acting as like a weird form of a bank so that they don't have to do that. Okay. So now what else is missing? What else does somebody need to know to like, is there any mechanics we're missing on that part?
So flipping the switch a little bit to say I'm the seller, right?
Okay.
Because I really want to hit on that piece because I really do see it as a value add to the audience is now this is another tool that I can add to my toolbox. And when I'm selling a property of my own or whatever, and a lot of the people are going to say, hey, the risk, what if they stop paying, right? What if they stop paying?
Let's talk about
how
that.
am I going? What if they stop paying my mortgage? What if they stop? And now it's still on my credit, right? Because the mortgage is still on their credit. And so how am I going to go buy a new property if it's on my credit? There's so many questions that could come up, but it goes back to risk, right? There is risk involved in everything. There is going to be risk involved in these types of transactions. And there are people that are going to not pay. It's just the nature of it, right?
It happens.
You may have to foreclose on somebody. So you do need to potentially be prepared. Hey, let me set some money aside. What we're doing with our property, we're setting aside 6 months of payments just in case they stop paying, so we could go through the foreclosure process. But one of the things you can do is hire a mortgage underwriter, right? You can go out there. I think it's an RMLO or what, I don't know the exact verbiage of it, but they can go through if you have a buyer you're going to sell subject to, you can have them go through the process of buying a property.
Right. Except for with you, not with the bank.
They're qualifying with your requirements, not the bank's standards.
That's cool.
So then you can at least mitigate your risk a little bit because now okay, this person makes the income. They can afford the monthly payment. The risk of them not paying is pretty good. So there are ways to get to lower the risk level by just adding a little bit extra scrutiny to these types of transactions. Now, for me, if I'm buying a property, I'm not even going to waste my time. Most of the time, if somebody says, hey, we want you to go through a full underwriting, I'm like, there's more deals out there. I'm not going to waste my time with that. Right?
Yeah. But you're explaining this.
But if I was selling my property, I would.
But that's also important to know because when you're negotiating with the seller, you want to know all of what their potential fears and objections are and how you handle it yourself. And it's even more beneficial when you can tell them like, hey, yeah, I'm actually subject to selling to somebody right now. I had the same fears. This is how I'm handling it. This is what I recommend. Like knowing both sides of the aisle, so to speak, both sides of this game, you're able to like really be a great educator because really that's all it is. Like education is influence in sales, like getting somebody to change a behavior or to help each other out, get over their own fears is really the name of the game. Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And so
So you've got, so now we have the mindset of the seller figured out. We have the contract figured out. We understand that it's legal. There is a very small, like 1 or 2% chance, especially if it's like a smaller bank, that they, they might do the
So I
due on
say if
sale.
it's a regional bank, if it's not a big
Yeah.
bank, like Chase,
Yeah.
Penny Mac,
Mr.
one
Cooper
of
or
these big
whatever.
servicing companies,
Yeah.
it's the risk of the due on sale clause is greater with regional banks. Now,
Right. Okay.
regional banks most of the time do not carry our mortgages, our VA lines. They do,
Right.
but most of the time they don't. Right? They're gonna it's done through a servicing company, and you're really not gonna have that worry. So I do want to say yes, there is. I would steer clear of regional banks, and you're really gonna see that with investment if you're gonna go after an investment property from another investor, and you may see that it's a regional bank. Now, there's not saying you can't do it, but I would maybe leverage a different strategy that I'm going to exit. Right? Maybe I'm going to maybe that property needs fixing up, and I'm just going to hold it for 6 months to a year before it goes through the annual review or whatever they do with their portfolio. And
So your
you can
exit
go,
de-risks it.
yes. So, hey, I'm gonna refinance into longer debt, or I have a backup plan when it does get called due, because it most likely will with a regional bank. I already know, hey, I already spoke to a loan officer. I've already got all my ducks in a row, and I'm gonna just refinance out of it. Yeah.
Or that doesn't even
So
have to be a loan officer. What if you have like a credit line or a hard money lender that in a pinch could just like write you a check until you figure it out, right?
exactly. Yep. You've raised capital. You got out there, and now you can just pay it in cash, and just now you make marquee on your bank.
Got it. That I love that. Now, oh my gosh, we're gonna sink our teeth into capital raising here a little bit. I want to give some people some tidbits, and like maybe you got a golden nugget of what helps you the most. I also have a resource for some of our listeners. So just keep tuning in, guys. Keep listening. We're about to talk about some really good stuff, but let's talk before that. How are you doing on time, by the way? I know we got a little bit of a late start. You good?
I'm all yours.
Okay. Whenever you need to cut it, because I could talk forever. Let's talk about the exit strategies in particular. Are you cool with moving on to that?
Yeah, let's go. I love exit strategies.
Yeah. So the wraparound mortgage, I think, is what often I see people's like, you can almost see it in the Facebook typing or like in their messages. You can just see their mind blown. They're like, what did you just say? And it's just, and it sometimes sounds like is it illegal? Is like too much financial gymnastics to wrap your head around? And it's just like, what do I do? Like, talk me through a wraparound mortgage in a scenario that makes sense. Maybe one that you recently done.
Yeah. So the one, it is a hot topic, right? And I'm pretty sure you've seen it in the Facebook group. And if you're not part of the Facebook group, I would say, hey, everyone should go out there and join ADPI's Facebook group. There's
Yes,
a wealth
absolutely.
of knowledge out
Thank
there. There's tens of thousands of people out there, right, that you can bounce ideas off of and start to open your mind up to something different. But the wraparound mortgage is, okay, let's say I've got a home that I bought, a loan I took out in 2023 for $350. Now I paid it down. I'm down to $340, but I'm selling my home for now $599. Okay. Now I've got, and these are I'm giving you real numbers here.
$200K more. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
And so I was just playing around. I'm just like, hey, let me just put this number out and see if somebody takes it. I did a lot of price reductions. Hey, it made sense. And then finally somebody bid on it. But what I'm doing, what it is I've got my underlining mortgage with my lender with my VA loan. And then now I've got a spread from my $599 to $340. And so now I've got equity in the deal. Well, what makes more sense for me is I don't need all that money right now. I would rather delay gratitude, and because I can leverage, I would rather get a check every month. I would rather get the difference in my mortgage payment and what their mortgage payment is. And so you combine the two, I've got a 5.275 interest rate. I'm seller financing, right? Say if I didn't have a mortgage, it's the same concept. But now I'm taking the $599 minus their down payment. She's giving me $100,000 down, which is surprising. I don't know how, right? That's great. I'm going to go leverage it for something else.
This is like the best I heard of.
So I'm financing $425,000, I think it is what I'm doing. But it's
your loan to
matching,
her, right?
My loan to her is $425,000 at 5.275% interest rate.
But you still have your loan wrapped inside it, right?
Inside of it, yep. And so now I'm going to get a check for about $500 a month to not have to worry about my pool pump going out, my light fixing filters, plumbing. Say someone stops up the toilet because I'm a landlord. Now I got to worry about that. I don't have to worry about that. Right. Now I get the benefit of getting passive income, but not having to worry about
totally passive. Like you're not even,
it's
you're not interacting
money.
with, right. You're not talking to a property manager even. Like
I've set it up to where I don't even have to pay my mortgage. I mean, we're using a servicing company, just like all of us pay our mortgage to. They're going to send the money to them. They're going to send me my money. They're going to send it to the bank. And the reason why I use a servicing company, here's the key, right? Is because I've got my VA loan attached to that property. I may want to go out and buy another property. I live in California now. Maybe I want to go buy a property here, or maybe I want to go, if I move somewhere else, buy another property. That servicing company allows me now to go to my new mortgage company and say, I'm not responsible for this debt. Someone else pays it. So now it comes off of my debt to income. It comes off my debt to income ratio.
That is
and
bananas.
the longer you have that loan, potentially, I haven't got there yet, but now that income can be leveraged towards a higher or to lower your debt to income ratio.
Right. A higher income on that ratio. Yes. So, okay. Whoa. All right. It's cool. Cause I had that question locked and loaded. I was like, what about this whole VA loan and your entitlement and like all that kind of stuff? Like, how do you get your certificate for the next property with the VA if it's locked up and you wrap it around? Cause I was thinking about what you were saying. I was like, wait a second, you bought your house and now you're going to be like wrapping it around. Like, how are you going to deal with that? Don't you want to use your VA loan again? Well, you just answered the question. So essentially, guys, a servicing company, a lot of like, you might not even know that you're using them. Like when I first bought a house, I don't think I really even realized what that meant, but essentially like they're the lender, right? But sometimes the lender is the servicer. Sometimes they outsource it to a servicer. Sometimes they're like, I remember I almost got whiplash on one of my properties when they flipped it to a servicer. It was like within a month, it was gone.
They sold it to, they sold the note to someone else. That your mortgage, most of us work with mortgage brokers. And what does that mortgage company go do? They go and sell that note. And they go sell it. They package them up and sell them to a bigger company so they can go leverage their money elsewhere.
Yeah, because they get a spread on the interest rate that anyways, yes. So it's like the wraparound mortgage truly, I mean, you truly are becoming kind of like a bank because you like flip it to a servicer. Now you're just making the spread and you're totally passive.
Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't looked at the amortization schedule yet, but I'm not making $425,000. I'm not making $525,000, right? I even did a $75,000 price reduction on it when she brought me my offer. Cause I was just playing with numbers. This was just an arbitrary me forcing
let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Right. And because the value is in the loan. The value is in that person can't go qualify to own real estate because now they can't. Now I'm solving their problem and my problem at the same time. But what is powerful here is I'm getting 5.275 on 425 rather than 5.25 or 5.275 on 340 what I owe. So now my interest payment, their interest payment is higher than my interest payment. Their principal payment is less than my principal payment. So as they pay down, mine gets paid down a lot faster. So when they go to refinance in 5 years or 10, we're doing a 5 year term, right, on this so that they have to refinance within 5 years. And so now we're making even more money at the end of the day because they're paying down the debt. Their interest payments they're paying mostly interest rather than principal. And
right.
you can do
Okay.
it. There's so many different ways you can do this. We could talk all day.
No, I know we can, obviously, but like, I love that. So let me, because I remember literally, I think it was 2 days ago, I was thinking about wraparound mortgages. I don't remember why. Maybe I saw a post you did. I don't know. And I was
Yep.
thinking the exact same thing because I'm like a math nerd. I love math to death. And so I was like thinking, ooh, is there some arbitrage there, guys? Arbitrage, just
There
like,
is.
hey, it's, the difference between what you're making, what you're paying. Is there some arbitrage on the amortization schedule? Okay, guys, I'm going to try to break it down how I understand it. And Adam, you tell me if I'm
Okay.
if I'm thinking about it wrong. So I'm learning from you now. Okay. So what you're saying is in an amortization schedule, typically when it just starts, what that means is like, it's not like a credit card. There's a defined schedule from which you not only pay interest, you also pay principal. You also pay the actual amount you owe. And at the beginning, about 2/3 of it is interest, and only about 1/3 of it is the principal. I mean, those are just very rough ballpark numbers. And then slowly, as time goes by, since you're paying down how much you owe, that interest rate now applies to the lower amount. And so the amount of interest you pay is less and the amount of principal you pay is a little bit more, because the design of an amortization schedule is to make you pay the exact same amount every single month. So the only way they could do that is if they slowly, gradually trade places over time. If you guys are watching me on YouTube, you'll see me, I'm doing like these weird, like Top Gun maneuvers with my hands, but like basically the thing slowly trades over time. And eventually you're paying mostly the interest, and there's not that much you're paying mostly the principal, mostly what you actually owe back, and there's not that much left of it. So the interest you're not paying is even less. Now, what's happening here, and Adam, again, keep me honest here, is you gave her a bigger loan. So that means obviously your interest payment, the interest payments she's paying you are far greater than the interest payments you were paying.
That I'm paying. Yeah.
Right. But also the principal is greater than what she's paying. And so that difference, you're also making that, although you don't see it anytime soon until she pays you out or whatever.
Over the life of the loan.
Over the life of the loan, right? So you don't see that happening at the moment, but not only are you getting that cash flow from like the interest arbitrage, but like the principal pay down, your rate is faster because it's a bigger loan than hers.
Yep. Well,
Wow.
the year loan into her is bigger. And
Right.
here's another thing you can do that even goes even further, that you can make even more money with a wraparound is, I could have went, what's today's rates? 7% right now. I think we're at in the sevens, high
Somewhere
sixes.
between 6 and 7, depending on,
But
yeah.
She's a non-conforming borrower. I could have went to 8% maybe. So I could have been at, my loan could have been at 5.275 and her loan could have been at 7% because I dictate the rate because I'm the bank.
Guys, so non-conforming, like basically this isn't your traditional primary residence or a 20% down rental property. This is something that's outside of the norm. It doesn't conform to the typical underwriting requirements. And so typically people have to pay more for something that's not considered less risky. This is especially true with like, if I want to go and have somebody just hand me $100,000 for like as a private money loan, and I don't personally guarantee that the property does, they might want to charge me like between 12 and 15% interest, because the higher the risk, the more they want, the more the person loaning you money wants an interest to kind of justify having high risk.
Yep.
So I see what you're saying. Like, I mean, the interest could have been significantly higher, but she knows that, like, I mean, I don't know what her plan is, but probably she's going to want to refinance you out into a lower rate whenever she can.
At the end of the day, I don't want this to happen to her, but worst case scenario, at the end of the day, she can't get qualified. I can extend my loan, or I can say, hey, you need to give me back the property. And now I've made all that. I keep all that money and now I start over.
Yeah. So
but I don't want that to happen. I don't want to set her up for failure. You don't want to set someone up for failure, but there are, if they don't fulfill their obligation, which it does happen, they may say, hey, I don't want to own property anymore. I'm just not, I'm good. And they may, or they may go fall on hard times and may have to take it back. So, but this is really powerful for those of us that have 2 and 3% interest rates right now. even if you went and sold your property for the same exact loan balance you have today, you would still make money because you would get the difference in the interest rate.
Mm. And what about, do you have a rule of thumb or how big the spread needs to be? Like for example, my primary residence right now is a 4.5, right? I got it in 2022, right? Things just started jumping up. I just missed the boat on the 3s and the 2s, right? I just missed the boat. So mine settled at a 4.5. Still not bad,
Yeah.
but like what is the spread would you think that it needs to be? Just ballpark rule of thumb that you're like, okay, I'm going to look into this and see if I can underwrite this and see if there's some meat on this bone, right? It's like
so
half
the
a percent, a
spread
full
is,
percent.
well, I mean, I'm letting her match my rate. So there's no spread on my interest rate. My spread is on the loan amount, the dollar amount.
Okay. Gotcha. So in your case,
Now, but I could have gone.
Right.
I'm getting a good spread, so I was like, oh, I don't want to, push it too much over here. So, I forced equity on a property that we just built. So I was, so I'm. There's really no right or wrong way of where it needs to be, where that interest rate the gap needs to come. If you want to do 0.5%, 1%, whatever, it's really what makes sense for you and what makes sense for the seller. Because what we're doing is we're solving problems. We're solving problems for the buyer. The buyer can't qualify for a mortgage because they are self-employed, or they've got, whatever the reason why they can't qualify. Maybe they, there's
whatever,
ton of reasons why, right? But you're solving a problem for them, so you can charge a premium for interest rates. But the rule of thumb, you're not going to go out there. If you bought your home today, you're not going to go sell it tomorrow for $200,000, right? It just doesn't make sense, right? So $200,000 more,
right?
So you have to be realistic. I always say, hey, look at the area. If you think you can play with it a little bit more, then play around with it. See what you can do. But at the end of the day, the closer you have your homes to market value, and you're competitive with the local bank, with what people can get traditionally as interest rates, the faster you're going to move your property.
So somebody's listening right now, probably, and if they are in this boat and they're like, you know what, I do want to be a real estate investor and I want to do something with one of my properties, like what you're talking about. Or maybe they're like, you know what, I want to do a different kind of real estate investing. I want to be one of those people that you're describing, Adam, and I want to sell my property subject to because it's underwater right now. Is there a way they can reach out to you for help? Like, do you help with that? I'm sure you do. I'm just I'm not sure how to direct them.
Yeah. So I say everyone go to my website, adamcatledge.com. I've got a form on there that they can reach out to me, and my email's on there, so they can go out there and reach out to me that way as well. And if anybody needs help with underwriting a property, show them how they can make more money on their, and I'll tell you yes or no. Hey, this is not going to make sense for you. Hey, I live out in the middle of no damn where, pardon my French, but and so, but so I'll definitely, I love working with other vets and even anybody really that is looking to broaden their mind on different possibilities that they can make money. Because not all of us want to be landlords. I want to be a passive landlord. That's why I have property managers. But at the end of the day, I am a landlord, but not all of us are meant to be landlords.
Right. What about, okay, so I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a bunch of the listeners right now. I've lived in my home for it's coming on 3 years now. And couple of questions I have if I would want to do a wraparound mortgage. So you already answered the VA loan question. Sounds like if I do it right with a servicing company, not only is it more passive, it also drops off of my DTI because I can justify it. But what about property taxes? What happened? Does the person
that's the benefit of wraparound mortgage, and so because once they're on the deed at that point. Now they're paying the property taxes. Now they're paying the property insurance. You're just an insured party. You're the bank. If you look at all of our insurance policies, our homeowners insurance policies, the additional insured is the bank.
Okay. And so they get their own homeowners insurance policy. Do you hold any insurance policies on the ones that you wrap around sell?
No, I don't, because then it's just double.
No.
I'm double paying for homeowners insurance.
Well, I mean, why? That would be your only policy, right? Like they are
Well,
getting homeowners.
I would rather
insurance
let them pay it, right? Let them pay the homeowners
I
insurance
see what you're
policy,
saying. Yeah.
and add me as an additional insured. So if it
I
burns
see.
down, at least my 425 note is protected.
So because that's what you're saying, like the additional insured is the bank. But in this case, Adam Catledge is the bank. So you're already insured by their own home insurance that they're paying. They're paying the
Exactly.
property taxes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And you
Awesome.
can't go
Awesome.
do this. There's complexity to these types of transactions. And I always say that you want to work with a transaction coordinator that's out there
Mhm.
that is familiar with creative finance, and or just talking to people like myself that have done it before, and to give you some insight on, possibilities that are out there. And there's plenty of people in ADPI that do creative finance. They're in the Facebook group. Go out there and join.
Good. Post.
Start chatting with people.
Post the word
and
creative finance.
post a question. Post a
Yeah.
question. Someone's gonna respond back to you and say, "Hey, how can I help you?"
So next step for me would be to figure out how I want to wrap this. Like, who is the end buyer? Because, like, yeah, I could find somebody potentially like you did, right? But I'm worried that my house is a little bit more expensive, to be honest, and I don't know
Mhm.
that would be my demographic of who I'd be able to find. Or not, I don't know what the right word is, the avatar, right? The persona that I'm looking for. So, but what I do think is my house has 4 official bedrooms. Technically, I could maybe make it 5. And you mentioned something about co-living. Is that, do you think there's potential for my house with co-living? Or I
Well,
know
it
you haven't
depends.
seen, but just the general thought process is like what?
Yeah. That's what's the size of it? What's the square footage?
2,700 square feet, almost 28.
Okay. Anything really over 1,700 square feet, you can make work with a co-living property, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, here's the caveat, though. As long as it doesn't have an HOA,
Does not.
then you're good. You could, and especially, I think you're in Florida, right?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna pause this just for a second. Editors, 1 sec. Somebody's really knocking on my door. I don't know if my family needs something. 1 sec. I'll be right back. Hey, I'm sorry. Brief interruption there.
No worries.
Something with an iPad.
Hey, that's the benefit of being able to stay at home.
Yeah, actually, one more second. Sorry, Adam. All right, we're 100% good now. Okay, all right. So you were asking me. I'll just let you start with, like, you were saying.
Yeah. So you live in Florida, right?
Do you live in Florida, right? Yeah. So sorry, you can start now.
All right. You live in Florida, right?
Yes. So I live in St. Pete,
Okay.
Florida.
Okay. Tampa area is an amazing co-living property or co-living market.
Really?
And so you say you've got 4 bedrooms, 2,700 square feet. I think of this. I think of what space can I convert to do co-living?
Yeah, I have an
Can I
office
convert
that
the
could be
living
a
room?
5th. Yeah.
Could I convert the dining room? Could I convert the living room? Can I convert the garage if I need to? How can I make it more bedrooms out of this property? So on average, you're going to get, you really want to be at 7 bedrooms to really make a good return. But and co-living could be its own hour-long chat as well, because it's just a great strategy. And I see that co-living can really take a home that you say no to and turn it into a quick yes. Because I've got a property that I'm buying next week in Atlanta, Georgia, that is going to make $90,000 a year from co-living.
Whoa, dude! A single family home.
Single family home. We're doing 9 bedrooms. And a lot of people are going to say, well, you got occupancy rules. There's ways around it. There's gray space. But So if you look up a company called Pad Split,
Mhm.
they're if you look at them, that company is the nation's leading co-living company in America. And so it's just a marketplace for them for co-living properties. But it's a great way. I mean, you've got the benefit for us investors are, okay, rather than me having one person pay my mortgage, now I've got 9 people paying my mortgage. So when one person leaves, I still have 8 other people paying it. Or I've got 7 other people if 2 people are gone. Not all of my eggs are in one basket.
I mean, that's the beauty of
And
multifamily in general. Yeah.
you're creating a small multifamily. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
concept. And I love the co-living space because it helps the local community out. It creates affordable housing for those that are in need. And you can use Section 8 vouchers for it in certain municipalities.
Oh,
You
no
can
way,
use
really?
The HUD VASH program, you can use those vouchers. It depends on the municipality. Not all of them in Atlanta, we're not going to be able to do it there. But I just invested in a property in Houston from a gentleman he's taking shipping containers and making co-living properties out of them. And he's already got his 9 units full from HUD VASH recipients.
That's so cool. So helping out veterans,
Helping out veterans, helping out your local community, and it's helping everybody around. It's helping you out. It's helping the community, the person that needs a housing out, because what we see today in the rental market is unaffordability. And we are able to come in and solve that one house at a time because we're able to spread load the costs across multiple bedrooms rather than someone just having to come in a house. And you see a lot of people with Section 8 vouchers that they have kids. Single individuals do not qualify for a lot of assistance. And so, maybe somebody that's making $15 an hour that's barely making ends meet, can't go out and afford a studio apartment because now they've got to pay utilities. They've got to pay their car payment. They got to pay deposits. Maybe their credit's not the best and so on. So this really allows someone to come in and at a discounted rent and live in a nice place and have a roof over their head.
You just gave me a light bulb. Like that makes now I understand. I think it's just I automatically think family, but like what would I do? But what you're describing is it makes total sense. Like maybe somebody, younger, single, does not get to qualify for some of the housing assistance, and they're totally cool with having basically kind of like not roommates but maybe like co-living mates, right? And it's
housemates.
just and housemates, right? And it's just not an issue for them to maybe have to take turns taking showers or using the kitchen. It's just not a problem because that's the phase of life they're in. But the value of not having to maybe double their rent payment to make it a studio or whatever the numbers are, right? It turns out to be a great deal for everybody.
And for those officers out there that are listening, and I'm pretty sure that you've seen a home full of lieutenants, right? I always go back to Topsail Island. I call Topsail Island Lieutenant Island. And our XO used to go out to do health and comforts on the lieutenant homes because he came back one day because I was admin. I was the admin chief, and he's like, dang it. He's like, I went out of the house and it was like lieutenants just fell out of the door because there was just so many people living in there. So, so it's really big around military bases because there's a lot of geo bachelors that are out there and they're already paying to live in the barracks because their families are at other duty stations. So why not create these properties in the local vicinity of a base and make veterans or, active duty service members your tenants? Now, here's the thing, right? Say that the reason I love co-living too, for especially our young service members, is say I'm a corporal, a lance corporal, and I don't have, and I want to use my VA loan, but I don't get BAH. Here's an opportunity for you to live in one room, have 6 other individuals pay for your mortgage, and then still have some money on the side, and you're living there for free without BAH. So
wait a second.
Why not? It's house hacking. House hacking 101 right there. But you're just, rather than having 1 or 2 roommates, now you've got 5 roommates because you've converted your living room and dining room into a bedroom by putting up a wall that costs maybe $1,000 for a contractor to come in and put a door and and a wall up. So, there's just
Wow.
another strategy. There's so many strategies. That's why I love the creative space, because you just get creative and creative.
You're never
You're
bored.
solving problems. You're solving problems.
Yeah. Gosh, I love, I mean, and I do like the idea of it kind of being like house hack. I mean, really is like remote house hacking, right?
Mhm.
For lack of a better term. That makes a lot
And here's
of
the
sense.
good thing too, on the exit. And I don't know how much longer you got, but
I only got like 3 minutes, but like, yeah,
yep,
sorry.
no, yeah. But this is where it gets really exciting in co-living, is because now I've got a business that I'm operating. I'm
Mhm.
making $90,000 a year. Do you
Mhm.
think that property can be sold now to someone that's
To
1031,
a
that's going to move
business.
money, that needs to park money, to a business owner? So rather than worrying about what 3% a year, now I've just forced hundreds of thousands of dollars into my property, because of now I've got $90,000 in cash flow coming in a year on a
Yeah.
single family home.
You're selling the business, which
You're
it's like
selling the
beauty is in the
business,
eye,
it includes the
right?
real estate.
Right. So the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Like if somebody's shopping on Zillow, they're going to compare it to a house that's just like it across the street. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're selling it to somebody who's looking at it as a business, it just happens to have real estate attached to it.
They're buying
And
the
that
cash flow.
they're buying the cash flow and they're going to pay a handsome multiple on that cash flow. So you might literally get 3 or 4 times more, which is why like people love like personal care homes. All of a sudden you turn a home into like a business and now it's worth, 7 figures instead of $300,000.
Yep.
That's epic. Look, Adam, you have been just mind blowing with all your knowledge today. I cannot thank you from the entire ADPI community and our team. You're really a big part of helping our mission of impacting 3 million military families. Guys, remember, if you want to get a hold of Adam Catledge, CATLEDGE.com, and any of these creative finance, obviously he's a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure he'll be able to figure out anything in your personal situation. So that's tremendous. Thanks again, Adam. Thanks for being here. Do you have any parting words before we sign off?
No.
Thanks again for your wealth of knowledge. See you later, man.
Appreciate it.